1964. So 60 years of benefits uninterrupted, no matter what. This is unprecedented. So what our caucus is doing is we are calling on Governor Morrisey to do more. Today, you'll see if you look down in the chat, and you'll also have it in your emails, we're sending 2 letters today. One of them is going to the USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins and President Trump. The other is going to our federal delegation, urging them to do absolutely everything they can. We've called on Governor Morrisey to call us into a special session, and now we're reaching out to our federal partners to make sure that they're doing absolutely everything they can. This is not about playing games. This is not about playing politics. There are so many tools that we can be using to do this. Here in West Virginia, I want to clear this up. Here in West Virginia, we are giving money to the food banks. We cannot directly fund the SNAP program because the USDA shut that down in the memo that they sent out October 24th. So the processor, the EBT processor that we use, Fidelity, has shut down the system. So even if we gave the money to the Department of Human Services, they would not be able to directly load that money into SNAP accounts. So the best thing we can do is to fund our food banks. I realize that is not the same thing, but we don't have the capacity to fund SNAP benefits because the federal government has taken an unprecedented move to stop the system. This is very, very, very much on purpose. So we can't directly fund SNAP. So the federal government needs to figure this out so we can directly get benefits. And that's what our letters to the federal government are doing, urging them to reopen, pass a standalone SNAP bill, or just simply fund the SNAP program so we can directly give the money to these 277,000 West Virginians so they can get their benefits. I'm going to pass it over to my whip, Sean Fluharty.
And thank you for that great breakdown in the host muted me. Okay, before we take questions, I think we need to correct the record real quick. When we reached out to the governor's office, it was about what this is really about, and that's protecting kids, protecting West Virginia families, and looking out for them in dire need. And so we said, let's work together. If it requires a special session, let's make it happen. But then you fast forward to his press conference, and his response was to turn this purely into politics. He came out and said, this is a Schumer shutdown. He went on the radio and said that members of this caucus want to provide health care to illegal aliens. Now, as the former attorney general and attorney, he knows he can't lie in the courtroom. So why is he lying to West Virginians on a daily basis about this issue? I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. This is about protecting kids. The only alien that I see around is a New Jersey governor who doesn't understand West Virginia values. West Virginia values are about looking out for our neighbors, especially children. We hear about it on the campaign trail all year long from his leadership about how he cares about families and cares about kids, and he's pro-life and pro-family. But when it comes time to providing for those families and protecting those kids, he turns it into politics. We're not here to do that. But when we were discussed, when we were brought up, we're going to defend ourselves, and that's what we're going to do. And so I will call on the governor and others to put away the partisan hackery. And if you are so close to the president, because we know that you put him on every TV commercial during political season, and you seem to be very close to him, maybe pick on and see if we can not these unprecedented moves that have been taken, as Kayla said, 60 years plus of precedent. Why are we now doing it? What has changed in those 60 years? Did somebody else take over and change how things operate and not protect our children? So let's work together. And I'm happy to take, and our team is happy to take any questions from the media. And I would hope that the media, when the governor makes these outlandish statements, hold him to it. Hold him to it. When he says things like this caucus cares about health care for illegal aliens, when he says it's a Schumer shutdown, all this political nonsense, can we stop it for 5 minutes and talk about kids? Like, kids are not political. Let's help feed the families of West Virginia. So with that, we'll take questions.
I guess I don't see a hand raise thing, so I'll just go ahead and go. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. I guess this was sort of talked about a little bit, but especially, and by the way, Delegate Young, thank you for explaining that a little bit further with the vendor and the EBT issue, because that hasn't really been thoroughly explained by the governor's office as of yet for why that can't be. But I mean, I guess what's the ideal situation here? I think we've heard that one meal provided, say through one of these emergency food boxes from a food bank is great, but it pales to the 9 meals that could be provided through SNAP. So it's not a one-on-one uh, equal exchange. So even with what the state is doing, it's still not obviously going to be enough. And even if you were to get 13 million donors to offset the 13 million that the state's providing, that only gets you about halfway through the month, and we need between 45 and 50 million dollars. So beyond the Trump administration and USDA releasing those emergency funds and the state not being able to put money into EBT through SNAP. I mean, or what other ways can the state be going about trying to making sure food gets to these needy families that are part of these programs right now? Thank you.
I'm happy to take that, Stephen. So you're right. Essentially, the federal government has to turn the EBT system back on for all of the states that utilize the Fidelity EBT processor. You will see states like New York, Louisiana, and Virginia, they use a different EBT processor, so they were able to quickly stand up a state solution, kind of similar to what they did in the pandemic. We are unable to do that. It would take months. I've been in contact with the Bureau for Family Assistance, and it would take months to stand up a new system. We know we can't wait that long. So the best case scenario is reaching out to the food banks and funding the food banks. That's really the only lever that the state has other than standing up a new system. But we all know that this is going to happen on Saturday. We can't get that done by Saturday. Another problem that we're having is the Department of Human Services doesn't have a great communication to be able to reach out to folks that are on SNAP. I asked them specifically, how can we contact these people? Is there a way to send a direct text message to them, an automated phone call? We have their contact information. And when they set up the PATH system, there's not a way to easily contact these people. They're sending out letters to the 277,000 people on SNAP. We know that SNAP recipients they're busy trying to get by. They're not paying attention to press conferences to understand how they can access resources. So we don't even have a great way to contact them. So that's one more thing that we could be doing. We own the system. We own the PATH system. The governor could be setting up a system to be able to directly contact these people in real time to let them know that they can call 211, because these folks don't know that. I would also add, we're just really urging our federal delegation to do everything that they can, and they have options. There are standalone SNAP bills that are introduced. There's a Republican version, there's a Democrat version. They need to put the politics aside. Got any other questions?
Blake the Journal with 13 News. I've spent my week talking to food pantries who are struggling to meet this need right now. I've talked to multiple families who do not know how they're going to get food for their children in this coming month. But I do want to focus on some of the positives. We're seeing a lot of grassroots efforts going around and trying to help support these families. There's restaurants giving out free meals. I interviewed 2 women who are setting up a database listing every food pantry, blessing box, everything they can. You got to speak on how important it is right now for these neighbors to depend on each other and trying to get through these very difficult times. To speak on how it shows the character of West Virginians.
So Blake, one thing is we're super appreciative of that. And that's the fabric of West Virginians sticking up for each other and being the underdog. We just want that to extend to their state government. It's coming upon us as a government to be able to help. We have the money, and we need to do that. And also another thing, it's so courageous of people in the communities to do that. But we also know that I don't care if you make $20,000 a year, $80,000 a year, 100. Everything is high. The cost of living has exploded over the past year. Groceries are higher. Gas is higher. Hell, I saw in Morgantown where it's like $3.19 a gallon. The cost of living is higher. So it speaks volumes about our neighbors, right? Putting in the pot, but they don't have that money because they're getting squeezed. And so again, this is not a handout. This is a hand up. This is what we're here for. And so we're asking our government, us, to do a better job in doing that. Next question.
I want to add to that what Blake said. The governor came out with his, I don't even know what we would describe it as, telethon. you know what it is that you see in like third world countries. Now you're seeing it in West Virginia. Well, you know, taxpayers have already paid. They've already made their payments to the government via taxes. And now he wants to do this, you know, private public partnership. And if you've seen the response by most of my constituents and those on social media, it's not going too well because they're fully aware of that. And they're going to send their money locally because they know it's going to be put in good hands instead of just sending it to the governor's office. And probably who the hell knows what'll happen next after that. You know, this is something that I thought was short-sighted by him, and the reaction is going about as expected. They've already paid their taxes. They expect the government to step up in a time of an emergency, which this is, with no questions asked, and make sure that kids are fed and families are provided for in the coming weeks, because the federal government can't get things done. So what do we need to do as a state? Step up. Now, our people do it. Why can't the government do it? And I think that's the frustration they probably have right now when they see nothing but press conferences and political talking points by their governor instead of real leadership.
I would just add that the people of West Virginia don't have $1.3 billion sitting in a rainy day fund for this exact circumstance. Any more questions?
Hi, yes, Carrington Harris from WDTV. I wanted to ask, you guys mentioned like funding the food banks and doing a special session as ways to like address this issue. Is there any other way we can address this issue while the SNAP benefits are lapsing?
Yeah, so thank you, Carrington, for the question. I think that there is a way that we could do it without special session. The governor has what's referred to as the governor's contingency fund, and a lot of these monies are encumbered or dedicated for other uses. But there's a great deal of this money that code gives discretion to the governor to use them as he sees fit. Essentially, the language is very broad. And so we don't necessarily have to go into session. And with the deadline on Saturday, there's a good argument to avoid going into session. Let's just get that money taken care of from the governor's contingency fund. And I don't think there's any one of us here who would be against going into session at a later date and putting that money back into the governor's contingency fund. But we need something now. We need something quickly. And that is one way that it could be done without having to do a special session.
Hey, John, do you know how much money's in that fund?
I was about to ask that too.
Yeah. So in total, again, some of it's encumbered. There's 500 million. In terms of money that he could spend, it's a bit confusing, but there's at least 40 to 50 million there, if not more.
Good morning, delegates. So I guess for my question, I've been working a lot with nonprofits in like Harrison County specifically, and even prior to this federal shutdown, they have been struggling with funding. And I know that they just were provided $13 million, but as we've discussed, that might not be enough. How far do you think that $13 million could get these food banks?
You know, again, I believe it's $1.5 million for a day. So I mean, when you look at that 13 million, that buys us, you know, we'll say maybe a little bit over a week, maybe. And so again, we know that the need is you know, it's big, it's huge, it's grave. So we are desperately trying every single angle to feed West Virginia.
And I mean, this is something that has been touched upon a few times about how this isn't about party lines anymore, but I don't need to tell you all how divided, especially on a national scale, we are. It's a lot more finger pointing and blame game than it is actually taking action. Do we believe that is there a reason to be hopeful that we can set aside the politics and actually help the people that need it, or are the sides just too far apart on this?
Well, you know, I don't think it's so much sides. We're in unprecedented times where the leader of our country, I mean, he doesn't even espouse quote unquote conservative values. which by the way, in my personal opinion, I think we've done ourselves a grave disservice as a country of labeling everybody liberal and conservative and this team red, team blue thing, right? I mean, it's stupid as hell, quite frankly. And the president is hell bent on dividing us, and he's using this as a tool for 2026. And so this was always a part of the plan. And so we have to now more than ever, again, that's why I reiterate, this ain't red or blue. This is Team West Virginia. And hopefully we can pass that along to our federal delegation and let them know that it's not campaign season anymore. They can stop any time now and start working for the people of West Virginia.
And this has absolutely nothing to do with the shutdown. The government has shut down multiple times, too much over the past few decades, and this has never happened where the USDA has done this. And so the state of West Virginia inherits this problem. And instead of coming up with real West Virginia solutions, all we want to do is play Washington, D.C. politics. And that's not how we do it. That's not how we do it, because our people deserve more. We're not talking about some policy that dictates how lawsuits can be filed or some of the other issues we take up in the legislature. We're talking about children getting fed. Children getting fed. This has to be the priority, the biggest priority. This is a shining moment in Governor Morrisey's tenure on how he reacts to such a problem that's been dumped in his lap with this new precedent of the USDA not using their contingency funds. So we need real West Virginia solutions, not talking about the shutdown. I have my own opinions on the shutdown, but again, that is not the proximate cause of this. The proximate cause is the unilateral new decision that the USDA isn't going to show up with money when SNAP benefits are on the line.
And I would just add that, we talk about these sort of issues. This is about the people, and to cut off SNAP benefits, particularly at this time during the fall, Thanksgiving is approaching, the holidays, this is cruel and unusual. This should not be happening, particularly when there are pathways to address this issue, both federally and at the state level. And any time that the people are used as a pawn, particularly our most vulnerable in our population, it's beyond what words can express. And I hope that not only the people can see this, but I hope that, some of our politicians on the other side can also see this too and step up and sort of present solutions and address this issue.
Are there any more questions out there? Well, if there isn't any more questions, again, we'd like to thank all you all for being here.
No, Riley had a question. He's muted.
He can't unmute.
Okay.
You got to take off your headphones, bro.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
So my question was basically just beyond SNAP, and let's look forward to the future. Let's say the shutdown continues for months, maybe. What other programs might be affected and what might impact West Virginians?
I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Mr. Leader. Well, that's not a hypothetical question. There are other programs that are being impacted, and that's really what this is all about. It's not just about SNAP, although, hunger, and especially hunger when it comes to children, should never be used as a political weapon. But that's exactly what is happening by this administration, not allowing the USDA to use this contingency fund, which is set up exactly for this purpose, so that those SNAP benefits don't go out. But what's already being impacted, we're also many West Virginians are receiving notices today that their insurance premiums are getting ready to go up. And that's what these negotiations that aren't even happening, these negotiations that the Trump administration is using hunger as a bargaining chip in, it's really about healthcare. So what we're already seeing happening also are West Virginians who get their health insurance through the marketplace. These are small business owners. These are entrepreneurs. These are independent contractors. They are set to see the sharpest premium increases in the entire country. So we would also ask our congressional delegation, supposed to be representing the best interest of the people of West Virginia, to get to the negotiating table and protect the health care of the people of West Virginia. You know, people shouldn't have to make the choice between health care and food. But unfortunately, many people in West Virginia had to make this choice long before the shutdown ever even happened. That's been a daily reality of West Virginians, and those who are supposed to be representing us in Washington are now making that worse.
And
Riley,
go
ahead, Hollis. Go ahead.
I would just add very briefly that up to 25% of West Virginians live in what we consider food deserts. So even if you're able to scrounge up funds to access food outside of your SNAP benefits, it still may be up to 45 minutes to go to the closest grocery store where you can get fresh produce and meats and dairies and things of that nature. So it just sort of compounds the problem in addition to everything Delegate Pushkin said. Go ahead, Delegate Young.
Riley, I would add the programs that are going to be impacted next. Head Start is one we saw this week. Braxton County Head Start sent out a letter saying that they've run out of funds and their grant has not been renewed. They have some other money that they can cover a few weeks, but that's it. Head Starts are going to be automatically impacted. WIC is going to be impacted very soon. The USDA's already had to transfer $13 million to the WIC program to keep it going for this month. They're not going to be able to do that for long. So the other child nutrition programs, almost every single county in our state utilizes the free lunch and breakfast program. They're not going to have the funding for that either. Also, programs like HUD, where they won't be able to process new housing applications, small business loan applications, flood insurance applications. Those are all next if the government doesn't reopen. We also know that federal workers are missing their first full paycheck this week. Pretty soon, we're going to not have paychecks for the military. They said they can cover it this Friday, but we don't know how much longer it can go for the military or air traffic controllers with holiday travel coming up. A lot of programs are very quickly going to be impacted if this shutdown continues.
And I'll add, they're still able to find $40 billion to prop up a regime in Argentina.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one. Charlie Roth with WSAZ. Have you guys asked the governor about using the contingency funds? Has he given you a response? And then a quick follow-up question. He said that he's worried that calling a special session would take too much time. Do you guys have a response to that?
My immediate response is that it's time well worth it. What happens is he orders us in and then we go in. He sets the call. We make it food specific to feed our children of West Virginia. And so I would respectfully disagree that it would take too much time. And there have been efforts to reach out to him, and those efforts will be ongoing to try to reach a resolution.
Yeah, real quick on the procedure of a special session. Let's not forget that Republicans have a supermajority. They can call a special session. They could suspend the Constitution. They could take whatever votes need to be done, and they can do it in one day. Now, last time I checked, the 11 Democrats are the only ones speaking out, contacting the governor, and saying, let's get this done for West Virginia families. So we could talk about the processes all day, but they control everything. And they have the power under that control to get things done in an expedited manner. So that's nothing more than smoke and mirrors and excuses. We've had special sessions to give corporations tax breaks on a regular basis. Anytime they come to our state and wink their eye at us, we run in there and give them money. But you know who doesn't have a good lobbying group? Poor people in West Virginia and their children. So then they become victims of wasted government. So we could get in there, we could finish this in 1 day, 2 days tops, and get the hell out of town. I don't want to hear anything about processes. It'll slow things up and it'll take too long. Furthermore, we could talk about the fact that the federal government has essentially said, oh, by the way, if states spend money, unlike in the past, we're not going to reimburse you. So that puts the state on a different level of high alert, because now that we feel like, oh, maybe we won't get the money back from the new administration, taking yet another unprecedented step and saying, this money for kids and they're starving and they're hungry, yeah, it may not be there later. But maybe if they move to Argentina, we can get them some food.
The last governor had the guts to call us in a special session with 30 minutes notice for a 1-day special session to give Berkshire Hathaway what they wanted to build a solar project in West Virginia. This governor does not have the guts to do it.
Any more questions out there? Well, if there are none, we appreciate everyone for tuning in today. But just in closing, this is a very serious matter. We've got to feed our children, and we've got to feed them now. And so, Governor, if you're listening, we're here ready to work with you to get this thing done. Thank you, West Virginia.